Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanak review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Thanking the Most High God for another day of life, for food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with each and every one of you. As we start this new week, I pray that the Most High God will continue to bless all of you and bless you with the endeavors of your mind that you desire in righteousness. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High God. And I'm grateful to the Most High God for my life and the life of my family. Giving all due respect to the leader of our congregation, even my brother, Prince Jadiel Ben Yasaskar. And I pray that the Most High God be with him and his family, be with all of you who listen to us at the sound of my voice. I pray that the Most High God be with you all. Also, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. To press down on the like button costs you nothing, and to share the link costs nothing. So we pray that the Most High God will continue to be with you all. And I just say early Shabbat Shalom to everyone out there. So at this time, we're going to move straight ahead, and we're going to get into the portion of Wayechi, which will be done by none other than one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I give praise to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel Ben Saska, to the host, Chief Uzziah Ben Lewi, to the Princess, Chief Kohanim, Rabbinate, Martyrs, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefather, Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start off with Adonai Sabtadi Dakofia Giti Atheaka, O Lord, on my lips. My mouth should declare that praise. Before I go into Wayechi, I want to just bring up some things I left out in Wayegash, and then we go into Wayechi, and then I'm trying my best to conclude. There'll be a lot of skips through Wayechi, but I want to conclude being this is the concluding book of Genesis, Bereshit. What's interesting is that also those that observe the fast of Tibet, I hope you had a good fast, and it came into a better space spiritually as well. And those that did, like I said, and those that didn't, I mean, it's not a mandatory fast. A lot of times we call the fast of Tibet, which always coincide around the time during the week. It always comes in during the week of Wayechi. That's when the fast usually come up, during the week of Wayechi. When I say during the week of, we start a new Sidra, which Wayechi, which we just read this Shabbat that passed. We know that they normally bring out the scroll and read the Sidra excerpt from the first portion of his first chapter or first portion of the Sidra on Mondays and Thursdays, and then Shabbat they go through the Sidra. So, and what's interesting when we talk about those fasts is the four different fasts. The fast of the fourth month, the fast of the fourth month, the fast of the fifth month, the fast of the seventh month, not counting Yom Kippur. See, a lot of times when I say seventh month, people think about Yom Kippur, but it's the fast of Gadliah. All right. Sometimes I might say, even myself might say rabbinic, traditional fasts, but it's actually more accurately saying prophetic fasts, because in the book it'll tell you about later on it would be days of joy when it was asked to continue, and it was started before we was using terms like rabbis, so those fasts, was done during the Babylonian, captivity, early part before, They came out of Babylon way before. So those were, are considered prophetic fasts going forward. And now I would like to just go before I go into Wayechi. Wayechi basically has 86 pasukim verses. So sometimes they have different formations for letterings and Hebrew letters and things they use for metaphors for the particular sidra, which is pei hey. Pei being 80 and 85 pasukim. Pei being 80 and the hay being 5. So it's 85 verses in this particular set portion. So let me just go back where I left off at with Wayechi, because last time Joseph made himself known to the people. After he made himself known to his brother and everything like that, and he went to send for his father and told him, the whole household to come on down to Egypt. He told him about his status, as his position in Egypt, as being even making a statement that he's a father to Pharaoh in this area there. So when his brothers, I'm gonna pick it up from the 45th chapter of Genesis and the 26th verse, and it said, and they told him, saying, Joseph's yet alive, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. And his heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. Now, first of all, one of the things, we know Yaakov was a strong man, and he would say he would go down his grave mourning for him. They said his heart fainted, because he couldn't believe that, after all these years carrying a torch for 22 years, basically, a sorrow within the heart. That's a long time for deep mourning and refuse to be comforted, So this is something, when you got all these other sons there, you got daughters, you got grandchildren, but you refuse to be comforted in that area there. And yet, Judah knew his sons was slain by God. And you don't find him carrying on that deep. So, but, I don't want to focus on that, at the point. But when he said he saw the wagons, which is the sons, I know they have a lot of commentaries on that, but one of the things historically is that Egypt wouldn't send, it was hard to send wagons out of Egypt, because it's like you're taking, more commodities than grain. In other words, if you came down with your cattle to carry grain back, that's what you left with on that. When you came down with wagons and stuff like that, was like getting a tractor trailer, so to speak. That wasn't allowed, at that particular time. Oh, before I go forward, I forgot to mention this here too. What's interesting about the Amana Tibet, just bear with me, I'll be ping-ponging while I'm trying to conclude this. With Tibet, there was the fast, and that's when the Babylonians laid siege. Also, historically, which most people may not know, is that the Chumash, the first 5 books, some try to say all of them, but basically the first 5 books was translated from Hebrew to Celtic Greek to Greek. I just say Greek in general, from Hebrew to the Greek language in Alexandria, between under the King Ptolemies, they say the second of Philadelphia's, around the years of 280. He reigned between 285 BCE to about 247 BCE. So we know the Maccabean rebellion itself started around 165 BCE. All right. So when we think about the Maccabean or Hasmonean family rebellion at 165 BCE, and we think about the scriptures already being translated from Hebrew to Greek in Alexandria, from under that king, Ptolemy II, or sometimes they say Philadelphus, and he reigned between 285 to 247. That means that close to 100 years, the actual Chumash, first 5 books, was already in Greek. Now, when he wanted to translate it into Greek, I just want to bring this up before I go forward. I know I'm stepped off the topic a slight bit, but when he wanted translate, when the Greeks wanted, this guy wanted to translate it from Hebrew to Greek, it wasn't because he wanted to worship or adopt a way of life. It just figured, and they didn't think of it as being divine. He just thought of it as being some good writing, interesting literature from some scholars. That's it. Like they had Aristotle and Plato, so they thought it was like that. And they had other writings at the Library of Alexandria that was translated, to the Greek, which became the popular language. And we know it became the popular language because when we get down to the Maccabean period, we find that those guys there, they had Greek names. So it wasn't strange to have Greek names. Spoke Greek language. So it's very known because Egypt is further south than Israel. And that's where it was. And he supposed to have 72 elders. They and they put them in different rooms, and they said it took them basically 70 days. So to translate it, and they all had. There's only, some scholars might say it might have been 3 different discrepancies between all 70, which means they all knew Greek that well. They all knew the Hebrew language that well to translate it into where it makes sense into another language. So that gives you an idea of when we study and then go into the Tanak, and they said this all happened and was completed around the 8th of Tibet, 2 days before the fast of Tibet. Some say it was a bad thing. Some say it was a good thing. Well, I leave it to you to decide, because we in the various countries here, we have all these Judaicas and other books, that's translated into the English language. Now we go and try to, some of us try to study the what they call Hebrew, say Lashon HaKadosh, the Holy Tongue. We go into an endeavor to learn it, but most of us are more convenient. Find it more convenient in the language that we grew up under, So, and we read a lot of other sources, about supposed to be our works from our ancestors that came down into to us in and translated it into Hebrew. I mean, in English. Even some of the great guys like Maimonides, he himself, the Rambam, as most people refer to him as, most of his writings was in Arabic, of course. He lived in the area there. So and Arabic was a major language. So most of his writings was in Arabic. It was a while before it came down, was translated into the Hebrew language, and then various other sources. So Rashi, who lived before the Rambam, he spoke French. He's a Frenchman. So he had his writings and he focused on, he used to write and send back and forth for Texas. So I just want to bring those little trivials out as we go forward. All right, so now so much for that. Now we're back into Bereshit. So Jacob's spirit was revived when he seen the wagons that were sent by Joseph. And he says enough, So in other words, Joseph, a position, accolades didn't matter to him. what mattered to him that his son was alive. Some would say, well, you want to see if he's still, following the traditions of his family, in some comments like that. I leave that, open for discussion. And 46th chapter, and Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifice unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke unto Israel in the vision of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt. I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hands upon thy eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father and their little ones. Just turn the page. Little ones, their wives, and the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry them. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt. Jacob and all his sons, Jacob and all the seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. All right. So I'm not going to read all the names in this area, that's why I'll be able to skip over that, but what's interesting is that you have these, the numbers that's given here. When it comes to Leah, you find the names don't match up with the numbers that it says at the end. So that's for you to go back over if you're interested, and check that out, and then come up with some discussions on that if necessary. All right, so the 40. So first of all, now we know and we read at that time that that's the last time that we read that our father Yaakov had an interaction with the Creator, and he said the God of his father Isaac. He didn't mention Abraham. That seemed a little interesting that he would just mention Isaac, who Isaac is dead now, and so his grandfather Abraham is dead now. So why he would deal and call upon the God of his father Isaac as opposed to the father Abraham and and Isaac, his cop. So that's something you could discuss, going forward. And that's why a lot of times I'd be back a while because so much stuff to really tackle in Genesis. And I'm gonna try to conclude so we can move on to the next section. When we in the 40, well, let me see here. All right. Let me go ahead. In 28th verse in the 46th chapter, it said, and he sent Judah before him unto Joseph, to show the way before him unto Goshen. And they came in the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen. And he presented himself unto him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen thy face, that thou art yet alive. There's a lot of comments about that. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and tell Pharaoh, and will say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, who were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me, and the men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of cattle, and they have brought their flock and their herd, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, what is your occupation? That ye shall say, thy servants have been keepers of cattle from our youth even unto now, both we and our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. All right, so now, this supposed to be an occupation that Joseph told him what to say. Not knowing, I mean, what we know them to be able to do in the history, in the past, when they asked what's your occupation, that's all we know them to do. That's what we know them to be doing when they plotted against Joseph. That's what Joseph did, you know. But the subtlety is herdsmen and buyers of cattle. Not necessarily that you're the job, but you're more like a businessman. I buy this, so and since I buy cattle, herds, bulls and stuff like that there, and I buy goats and lamb and stuff, and I have other people working, but that's not really what I do. So when we read this here carefully, you'll find out the difference. Now, naturally, he wanted to keep them separate for various reasons that you could come up with, from the Egyptians. But he's involved deeply with the Egyptians. So, but the thing is, it's not just being a shepherd. And that's what I want to point out. It's being a merchant in shepherds. I buy and I sell. That's what I do. I buy and sell. I don't have hands on. I do the paperwork. I do the negotiation, I do the business. So it make you sound a little more prestigious, saying, except a guy that's out there saying, look here, I'm working in the field. All right. So these are some of the things that, we find when you look at the wording carefully, Hebrew and English, look at the word carefully. All right. So we're going to go and skip a little bit down here where Jacob is introduced. And Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how many are the days of... All right, so now after, so he said he posted it should have been 180, but because of the statement he made, they say he lost 33 years. You could take that or leave that, whatever it is, but we know he died at 147. And what's interesting, at the end, he don't say he died. They just saw him dead. Another interesting thing they talk about. But let's go and skip on into the Wayechi. So, because there's quite a few things I want to bring out in Wayechi. Oh, before I get to that, let me just Wayechi. I want to finish out. I'm not going to finish this out. All right, which is an interesting thing because it leads up to Shemot. So the 13th verse, I'm going to read this and explain it in the end because I don't want people to miss this. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore. So at the land of Egypt, start with the 13th verse in the 47th chapter. All right. So, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore. So that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they brought, which I told you was wheat. And Joseph brought the money unto Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For our money faileth. And Joseph said, give me your cattle, and I will give you bread for your cattle, if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses and for the flocks and for the herds and for the asses. And he fed them with bread in exchange for all their cattle for that year. And when that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, We will not hide from our Lord how that our money is all spent, and the herds of the cattle are my Lord's. There is naught left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore should we die before thy eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be bondsmen unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land be not desolate. So Joseph brought all the land of the Egyptians unto Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine was sore upon them, and the land became Pharaoh. And as for the people, he removed them city by city, from one end of the border of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Only land of the priests brought he not, for the priests had a portion from Pharaoh, and did eat their portion, which Pharaoh gave them. Wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have brought you this day in your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass at the ingathering that you shall give a fifth unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for the seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your household, and for food for your little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find favor in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's bondsmen. And Joseph made it a statute concerning the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the fifth. Only the land of the priests alone became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they got them possessions therein, and were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. The reason I wanted to read that out is because when Jacob went there, it was still during the famine. Joseph told his brethren, they got 5 more years of famine. So now, what changed in this second year, within the famine? So this is what you might want to discuss more. What changed actually in that second year? Because when we look that at the land, it's a famine in the land, what you doing selling me seed? And how am I going to give a fifth part if it's not going to grow? It don't make logical sense that you're going to sell me something. You told me the famine been supposed to be for 7 years, and all of a sudden, I don't have anything else. You're going to give me seed to start a plant. And then not only that, which is ironic, is that you made me leave and sell my property and go someplace else, so I'm not even tied to my ancestral land. Displacement. So, and this sets up the stage when we get into Shemot. That's why, we're going to focus on that a little bit more when we get into the book of Exodus, because this sets the stage. Here's an outsider, and you're thanking them for saving your life. But we say, all right, we're going to be slaves to Pharaoh, because Joseph knows they're not going to be his servants. They really ain't about him. It's about the authority that Pharaoh invested in him. And they look at him as, a lower status, even though he got great authority. So, so this is some of the things to think about when we talk about measure for measure, tit for tat. When we get into the book of Shemot, we got to always reflect back at this here. What would promote such a thought pattern for the Egyptians? Where we come down as VIPs, and then we reduce and role reversal as slavery. Joseph came down as a slave and elevated as a person of a VIP. And his children and his brother and his stuff come down and become VIPs. So this sets the stage going forward in Shemot, which we address next time. Now I'm going to Wayechi. Wayechi itself, and he lived. Why is it when we talk about Kaye Sarah, the life of Sarah, and that's Sidra, she dies. But it recaps, how old she was, and whatever Avram told the the people in the audience of the Hittites at that time, was about what her life meant. Now we get into Wayechi, you know, so from the life of Sarah to an individual of Yaakov who happened to say, and he lived and Yaakov lived. I mean, now being alive is one thing, but are you really enjoying your life? And so now when we get into the area there, we find that Yaakov leaving Israel, and what's interesting when he used both names, when he get ready to go down there, he used Jacob and then he used about Israel and stuff like that. So, and the subtleties, the way it's used that, pay close attention to when Yaakov is used and when Israel is used. Though his name supposed to be Israel, that's his major, supposed to be his major character. Is when the terms are used, you find out one is more on the spiritual level and one is for a physical desire. So you could discuss that further with your teachers, but pay close attention while both those names are interchanged. And we are considered the children of Israel. Very rare, and most times in a negative sense, we are the sons of Yaakov. All right. Now, so why you can't say Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. And so the days of Jacob, the years of his life, were 147 years. So you take the gematria for Wayechi, which means 30, adds up to 34, taking each letter, giving it a numerical value. All right. So 17 years there. Joseph left when he was 17. So most commonly, he took care of Joseph for 17 years. And now Joseph looked out and took care of his father for 17 years. And he had no problems for those 17 years. All right. So we don't say for the 17 years he had problems, didn't have problems for the first 17 years, but he enjoyed having Joseph with him for the 17 years. And Joseph growing up, losing the mother, and Benjamin not even knowing his mother. So it's a lot of things going on with the family features as we go forward, which I brought out before. Now, when we look at this here time, when we talk about how do a person say, in the land that God wanted me to be in, the land that God say going to be in my inheritance, that I really live strong and enjoy my life in a foreign land, and we ourselves, got to ask that question sometimes. Sometimes, because of certain circumstances, the land of our nativity is not the land where we have our best life. It just be a matter of, back in sometimes the place where we were actually was born, had our roots at, it's not necessarily our best life. And then you always want your life to be better as you grow older. We had the saying when I was coming up, the good old days, or back in the days when things were going this, that way. You don't want to focus on back in the days when things are going well. You want to look for good days, good years. That's why we don't say in Hebrew, Happy New Year. We say, a good year, which is, Shana Tova, a good year. You're looking for a good year, not a happy year, but a good year, a prosperous year. You want each year to get better, not worse. So now Yaakov now is living his best years, but in a strange place. So, and this is the last book, and it's 85 verses in this particular chapter here, and the use of term pay, mouth. We also had find that same thing, which is double. So you might want to discuss that later on, because it's used as a noun. Every sidra has some kind of metaphor, term or name given to it, and this one don't seem to fit when it say, pay, I'll pay, pay, I'll pay, mouth to mouth, which you take basically, we find that phrase used is in the book of Exodus, around the 12th chapter, when Miriam and Aaron speaks against their brother Moses, and God had to let them know that he speak to Moses mouth to mouth, not like anybody else, dreams or visions. So that's another story, but I'm not going to focus on that because I want to finish this particular portion out. I just threw that out there so that you might want to do further investigation. So now, in the 48th chapter, oh no, before I get to that, 29th verse. And the time drew near that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph and said unto him, if I now found favor in thy sight, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury not, I pray thee, in Egypt. All right. That sounds a custom of what, Abram did with this unnamed servant to get a wife. So now, and why, he want Joseph to take an oath. He didn't ask no other son. He only wanted Joseph to take this particular oath. He called for him specifically. I don't have time to really go into all the different variable arguments in it right now, but that's something to consider as you go. I mean, you got 11 other sons, but you're going to entrust him to do it. And you're not a captive. So why do you have to make him swear? You could have just easily told the rest of the sons that. But let's look at and something else going on here as well. But when I sleep with my fathers, thou shalt carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said. All right. People focus on that last verse. That last line. In 31st verse, and he said, swear unto me. And he swore unto him, and Israel bowed down upon the bed's head. The bed's head. Now, God traveled with him into Egypt, and we find out later on that when we go into captivity, God go with us that sometime and look out for us. We have, that's what God does for his people, his elect. So once Joseph said, I would do it, why Jacob still say, swear? I need you to swear, and vow, and not just say you're going to do it. I need you to vow, commit yourself completely, so this is, another thing. That's why most of the times when we go to, court or anything like that, we don't swear, we affirm, but we don't swear, in that sense, and so, but Jacob asking him to actually swear. So that's another thing, and it's a major difference between the two about affirmation and swearing. All right. So 48th chapter. All right. It goes on to say that, and it came to pass after these things that one said to Joseph, behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Before I go into the third verse, that means he didn't hang around his father that much. So it's a lot of questions going to be rise up. Did Jacob know what was going on? Did Joseph did that intentionally, or he's caught up in the metropolis? And from the beginning, why did he send Judah to spot out the spot? See Joseph first and then spot out the spot for him in Goshen and head the way. All right, so we're going to find a lot of stuff going on, and we can relate to it. going forward. All right, so after that, Joseph, so Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee. I will make of thee a company of people, and will give this land to thy seed, and after thee for everlasting possession. And now thy 2 sons, who were born unto thee in the land of Egypt, before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine, Ephraim and Manasseh. He worded like that. I guess Joseph didn't catch that. Even as Reuben and Simeon shall be mine. All right, so he mentioned Ephraim name first, and from the beginning. I guess Joseph didn't really think about that much, you know. But this is a lead up. So in the 6th verse, it says, and thy issue that thou begettest after them shall be thine, and they shall be called after the names of their brethren in their inheritance. In other words, that if you have any more kids after that, all right, that's your kids. All right, but these boys here, they're mine. All right. And as for me, when I came from Padam, Rachel died unto me in the land of Canaan, in the way when there was still some way to come to Ephraim. And I buried her there, in the way Ephraim. The same as Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, who are these? All right, so now, before I go to the 9th verse, I want to look at the order. All right. First thing he do is talk about swearing to bury me in the cave of my ancestors in the land of Canaan, in Israel. Next thing he do is adopt Joseph's 2 sons. And the third thing he do is reflect about what he did to Rachel, Joseph's mother, the wife that he loved, how she wasn't buried alongside of a road when it was just a little ways to get to a certain spot. So that order says volumes. Why do you can say, look, you possibly have an issue, that Rachel, might have been, your mother, and I didn't treat her well. Now I'm gonna get ready to make this dynamic request, false burial, since burial is an issue. Why is that not important? And then it's the adoption that came second. It's his reward to overlook the situation and what happened to his mother. So there's a lot of discussion that could go on. Swear to bury me. Okay. Now I'm gonna adopt your children. And now I'm gonna reflect, because I asked you to swear to bury me in this area there. You might feel a way that I'm making such a dominant request on you when I didn't take that same consideration to concerning Rachel when Leah is buried there. So let's go further, and let me see if I can speed this up just a little bit more. 9th verse. All right, and Joseph said unto his father, they are my sons whom God had given me here, and said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so they could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face. Lo, God had let me see thy seed also. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he fell down on his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly. For Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, now notice he said, he blessed Joseph and said, the God whom my father Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God whom have been my shepherd all my life, long unto this day, the angel who have redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named in them, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father was laying his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He is also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Howbeit his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, by thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and Manasseh. All right. So this 20th verse, and pay close attention to in the Hebrew or so. All right. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh, and Israel said unto Joseph, behold, I died, but God will be with you and bring you back unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hands of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow. We don't read that, but anyway, that's what's stated here. All right, but I'm not going to focus on that. But I'm going to focus on a tradition. The oldest tradition is, I think, maybe 300 years in Moderna in Italy, where they actually write down where they bless their children on Friday night, the sons with a blessing, this particular blessing. Now, why these two guys? This is the first time you don't have sibling rivalry, because you read it in the Hebrew language, the blessings in the singular, but it's concerning both of them. And it's the first time that Manasseh is not jealous over Ephraim, and Ephraim wasn't trying to jockey into a position to get above Manasseh. So for 3 generations, Abraham's sons, Isaac and Ishmael, it was an issue. All right. And then amongst Jacob himself was an issue. All right. So now, it went, with the actual original patriarchs, it was an issue. The sons of Jacob. This is the first time it's not an issue, with these two boys. All right. You get the blessing? Okay. It's still a firstborn. And we know also that, like I said before, that the blessing is different from actually what the firstborn supposed to get, which is property. All right. We know later on, and that's going forward, which we'll see in the book of Bamidbar Numbers, that Manasseh had 2 portions. Ephraim got 1 portion in the land. So, but when we think about the spiritual side and the greatness of it, then we're gonna find out later on, that when you talk about leadership, you're gonna find Ephraim being dominant than Manasseh. And I'll come back to that in a moment. I just want to try to finish out a couple of verses in this, and then highlight the rest. So now in the 9th chapter, it said, oh, and one more thing too, and about the blessings. So everybody, every father usually on Friday night will bless their son on the, going to the beginning of Erev Shabbat. So they bless their children. The sons, they bless with this blessing, like Ephraim and Nasik using Ephraim names first. And it's always a controversy between because you had one guy say she used one hand on each child on the head, and another one said you should use two hands, like the priestly blessing with two hands. So that's most people use two hands. So just one of the opinions that's out there. I just figure I'll share it. But when we talk about the blessings that's coming on with these two kids, we only talk about the women. They were blessed. The daughters with the blessing. With the same thing, except they mentioned instead of the names of Ephraim and Nasik in that order, they mentioned Sarah, Rebecca, then they say Raquel and then Leah in that order. So when they bless the daughters on a Friday night, those that tend to give a blessing to their children. And it's a good thing to be able to say, I'm able to bless the children. Now, when we get to the blessings, and what we find later on, which and I'd like to go back just a moment while I got a little bit of time, go back to Abraham, just in case I don't get, I'll be moving and omit it. And I find it important that before blessings, in Genesis, is always before that, God doing the blessing. He blessed Noah and their sons. He blessed, they did all the blessing. That was strictly with God. When when we got to Abraham, it's the first time. So anytime when God blessed the Shabbat day, he blessed, the creation and stuff like that. God only did the blessing. But from the time of Abraham, that's when man, and he's the first one that was endowed the authority to hand out a blessing. Now, I just want to focus on this area before I go into the 49th chapter. And then book of Genesis, go back in 12. And it says, in Sidra Lekakah, now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and thy kindred, and from thy father's house, and unto the land that I will show thee. And I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great. But this part here, and be thou a blessing. All right, be thou a blessing. That means that you're able to bless. When you look at that in the Hebrew, and it says, and I will bless them that bless thee, bless them that bless thee, and him that curses thee will I curse, and in thee, and that's another part to focus on, in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram, before his name was changed to Abraham, was given that authority to bless. Oddly enough, you didn't read where he blessed his sons. Though he was given that authority, Isaac, the next one to actually use it. So and from that point on, men were blessing men, and recognize that authority. That so, and a real true blessing is not what you get, but what you can give. That's what the real blessing is. A blessing that what you get, that's only for you, and it's only building up you. But the truest and the most ultimate blessing is what you able to give, and give out. That's why the thing about being a blessing, that's why Abraham was promised to be successful. So he could, in every aspect, spiritual, physical, so he could able to contribute to those people outside of himself. All right, so when we get to this portion here, it says, the 49th chapter, it says, and Jacob called his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall be before you in the end of days. Assemble yourselves and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. I'm only going to read 4 of these, and then I'm going to stop and go to the end. It says, Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the first of my fruit of my strength, the excellent dignity and excellent power, unstable as water. Have not thou the excellency, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, thou defiledst thou it, he went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren, weapons of violence, their kinship. Let my soul not come into their counsel. Unto their assembly, let my glory not be united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they hold the oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. So Yaakov didn't curse them at all. He cursed actions. He cursed the actions, but not them. And careful, because remember, they also are the descendants of Abraham. Curse them, you'll be cursed. Bless them, you'll be blessed. Point out a flaw is a blessing. Then we get so now verse 3, and I'm going to go stop at Judah. Judah, thee shall thy brethren praise. Thy hand shall be on the neck of thy enemies. Thy father's son shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. The prey from the prey, my son, thou art going up. Thou stoopest down. He couches as a lion, and as a lioness, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, as long as men come to Shiloh, and unto him shall be the obedience of the people, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass coat unto the choice vine. And all right, that's enough right there. Anyway, now these are the first 3 sons of Leah that he spoke to first, and then the 4th one was Yehudah. All right, so now when Leah, and they make this analogy also with the prayers, I mean, when it gets to the Shema part, the Kriyat Shema part, why they take 3 steps back. So I don't have time. I'm looking at my clock. I don't have time to go into it, but they use the reference to Reuben, Simeon and Levi, with the 3 step backwards, before an approach is made to God, which was Yehudah, so, and they started off with from the Shema part, which that, have 2 sections. So you got the first section of the Shema, because it's broken up in sections, and those that follow a traditional prayer book. And the first section would be Reuben. The next section dealing with the Shema would be Simeon. And the third that leads between the Amidah, which is the standard prayer, which is the most sacred part of the prayer that you do in the morning, anytime, pretty much more so in the morning, then you have, so before you get to the Amidah prayer, the standing prayer, or the Shemoni Ezra, they say 18 blessings, some calculators 19. You have what they call other prayers before they get to that point, and that's represent Levi, the tribe of Levi. And then when you get to Amidah, it's Yehudah, of course, and that's the most sacred prayer, that you would say, and that's why it's done standing up in there. So I don't have time to go into the depths right now. I just want to just point that out for those that follow, a traditional prayer every day, and they allude to those sons. But one of the things is that why do you deal with the kingdom of Yehudah more, and more so, and talk about kingship, in that sense, and why would it be, most people refer to people as, so using a general term, as Jews, Yehudim. You find that in the book of Esther and stuff like that. You find a little bit in the book of Jeremiah. You had 2 kingdoms. you have, after, the Israel, the nation of Israel was united under 3 kings. First one being Saul, the next one being David, and the third one being King Solomon. After King Solomon, the nation of Israel was never ever united. Leah, she wound up having 4 sons immediately. First one, she figured, see, I have a son, my husband, God saw I was hated. So he got the son, he got the second son, and then think about her prayers, for Simeon. The third son, I got 3 sons now. My father would join, my husband would join with me. So she was focused on her husband, trying to get a husband. But then when she got this 4th son, she said, I might as well just praise God. Not only just praising God, Jacob had 4 wives. Where I know people sometimes might say they're concubines, but later on you find also they call wives. That's why the sons are equal. And, and all of them is on the breastplate. So what we have here is that if you have 4 women and only 12 sons, then each woman should have 3. Leah should have had 3. Zilpah should have had 3. Raquel should have had 3. And Bilhah should have had 3. That would be 12. Not counting the daughter, that Leah had. So now, when she has 4, she had more in her and said, look, I'm going to praise God. It's about God because, at this point in time, I'm going to have more, than the rest of them, period. And then she still didn't stop there, so now she had more in her portion because now she had half of the nation of Israel because she had Issachar, and she had Zebulon. And then she had the daughter. Only one to have a daughter. So she had much more than her portion. But when it comes to Yehudah, it's like praise. When we say torah, we're saying thank God. So and that's one of the things that we recognize when you think of somebody, you saying that without your generosity, your concern, I was at a loss without this. I really need what you did for me. So whether it's monetarily, whether it's any kind of physical thing or mental thing, and when you say thanks and Torah, that's saying that I needed that. So that's the differences. So it's about giving. When you're giving praise, is actually you're thanking God, in that. So just to be brief right now in this area here. So when we hear about the 12 tribes, and we got what's interesting in the 12 tribes. So we also was blessed separately and then blessed again with them, on that level, within the area. That when you think about what's concerned the character of Joseph and the character of Yehudah, we find, first of all, that these are the 2 dominant guys. When the northern kingdom was separated under Rehoboam, the 3rd king of Israel, that they referred to as the kingdom of Ephraim. And why Ephraim? Because most of the kings came from Ephraim, that tribe. But the first, when we think about leadership, we're talking about the only one, that learned about when Jacob talked about the blessing and talking about, but he really wanted to speak about the last days. For some reason, it changed because he wanted to tell them what's going to happen at the end of days, in the beginning. And at the end of the chapter, he blessed those 12 boys, the patriarchs of the tribe. But he wanted to tell them at the end of the day. So when people say it don't sound like a blessing when you talk about the Reuben, it don't sound like a blessing when you talk about Simeon and Levi. What it is I'm pointing out your faults. You could override those faults. So now some people will learn and say, okay, that's my problem. Let me straighten that problem out. And it seemed like the tribe of Levi straightened that problem out. You read about them being more staunch and more devout to the Creator and to the tradition of worshiping that one God than the rest of the tribes collectively. Not saying individual from the tribes wasn't like that, but collectively, the tribe of Levi will stay staunch in a strange land, devoted to the worship, of the God. Now, when we look at the rivalries, I said after, well, before I go through that, you have the political. You got leaders that's political and spiritual. All right, Moses, when we commit to Exodus, is not only a political leader, but he's also a spiritual leader. Great. So Levi, that's from the tribe of Levi. So he learned from that. So he learned from, what his weaknesses is. And, sometimes it surfaces up, but he learned, for the most part, the tribe generally. Then that's why they wind up with the priesthood. Then the next spiritual and political leader you find is not from Judah, but you find it from Ephraim, Joshua. A political leader and a spiritual leader. Spiritually said, look here, we don't want to fight on Shabbat, or whatever the case is, it could be the Shabbat. Most people traditionally say it was the Shabbat coming when fighting, dealing with Jericho. It's the sun standing out still up on Mount Gibeon and the moon down the valley of Shalom. So he was spiritually strong, encountered an angel, and he was political in his movement. And he caused the people to inherit the land. So that's one of the areas there. So now, when you get to the tribe of Yehudah, in a sense, and you talk about praises, Yehudah, let's look at the patriarch of that particular tribe. He fell, messed down, and one of the most dominant things is not so much as proposing to sell Yosef, not so much, having friends with a Canaanite, but in the matter of Tamar, because he didn't have to identify himself when she sent the tokens, of collateral that he had left. He didn't have to identify himself, but by identifying himself, he admit he's wrong in that matter. And he also say she was better than him in that matter. And what else further matter is that had he not did anything, and and it's a knowledge to children that then the knowledge to children that they'd have been a person where we don't know who their father was, we don't know their lineage at all. Now they not would consider a mamzer a bastard in that sense, unless it would be incest involved, and you could say, well, what would be considered incest at that time? Because the law is not written out at that time. But even aside of all of that, he gave the children of that woman identity, a heritage to live up to. And so Yehudah also didn't stop there. So he's willing to say not only saving a life and saving other lives in the process, but he also was willing to sacrifice his life. That's how you got guys like King David, a man after God's own heart. And so that's, and so when we look at that, you had those two rivalries between the two tribes. And when we look at the rivalries between the two tribes, Ephraim, though there was more wickedness up in that area in the northern kingdom, because you had prophets like Elijah and Elisha and a whole bunch of people, even almost, some here, y'all guys are messing up really bad. They went into captivity, 133 years before Judah went into Babylonian captivity. But yet, Judah maintained and came back. They had a sentence with a time limit. The other 10 tribes didn't have a sentence with a time limit. Now, that don't mean all the 10 tribes didn't come back, because we read in time of Hezekiah that some of them humbled themselves and came, and he risked their lives to come back and live in the land, of Yehudah. All right, so they live in the land of Judah, but it was never enough of them to say, hey, this tribe came back and that tribe came back. You had Levites that stayed because the temple was there. And you had probably some other people, those Levites that was spread out and caught out there. But for the most part, they, these were the two rivalry tribes, so much so that when we read the Torah before and prior, that Ezekiel bringing two sticks together with Ephraim name written on it and Judah name written on the other. And that Judah would be the dominant force in that area and be the leader in that area of the nation because of what he means. It's about not so much being fruitful, it's about being thankful. It's not so much about the blessings that you get, but the blessings that you could share. So that's one of the dominant facts. So it becoming one, and besides other things. And this last thing is, we know that Jacob dies in this particular chapter, in the 50th chapter of Genesis, and that he's embalmed. They have a big escort going to Canaan land, and when they had this big escort going to the land of Canaan, there was some activity going on. Some say fighting, whatever the case is, and they said they sent them with an armed escort. So imagine, Joseph is a dignitary, but Joseph, one of the things I don't want to omit this here, almost did. Joseph swore, but he also asked the court, the servants of Pharaoh, to petition Pharaoh on his behalf to be able to carry out what he swore. Now, what's interesting is that I'm under this oath to my father. He want me to carry this out, and I got to carry it out. I got to figure out, if I'm trying to, maintain my position at the same time. I don't want to be offensive at the same time. Think of character change at the same time. I'm not throwing those things out. So now he had the servants of Pharaoh, the court guys, officials, to plead to Pharaoh for his behalf. And Pharaoh said, since you swore to your father, all right, go ahead, take care of that. It's only because he swore, it would seem like from the writing that Pharaoh said, okay, go ahead. But you notice one other thing, we're going forward. When they left their little ones and they left their cattle, and only the older people left. The sons and those that was up in the age left, but somebody had to be behind and watch their little ones. So their little ones was held as hostage. They didn't say hostage then, but they left behind. So now when we get into the Exodus story, there's a lot of things we see. The oppression that's switched over, the political movements that's there, the status quo, as far as, where I'm on this level and you're on that level. So we find all that. And then also Pharaoh saying, okay, you didn't send your kids to go ahead and bury, your patriarch Jacob. You didn't send them. All right. You only sent, the main guys out there, but your kids and your cattle you left behind. So if you're going to go 3 days journey, it seemed very logical when that's 11 days trip and you had an escort. So when we focus on these different things in Genesis, when we get into the book of Shemot, we're going to see, hey, Pharaoh, he going back in history and saying what you did there with the burial. Now we wind up that Jacob was embalmed, and we know that Joseph was embalmed. And we know it took 40 days for the embalming, and all together. So they said the Egyptian mourning for 70 days, but the children of Israel didn't start to mourn them until actually it went on the other side. So they basically a 30-day period. So in the land. So and then we know about the last thing that Judah brought out in reference to. The brothers, they sent a messenger about what their father has told them to forgive them. So now that's the last thing I want to bring out. Next to the last thing, that he asked Joseph to forgive him. after they came back. Because Joseph, was somber on the sideline, so to speak. And like you ain't gonna get a lot of visits from my family in the palace where I'm at now, because Pops is gone. So he tells them, am I in God? God, you meant it for evil. God made it for good. So one of the things when we look at in that area there is that and you could discuss it more. Did Joseph ever forgive them? For what they did, or he just let it go and focus on what he was doing? And yet Joseph made them swear to take his body out, the children of Israel, take them out when they go, and use the word, pakod, or you record, which means, God will remember. Well, it translates God, you remember, but it means in the sense of taking account of you and bring you out, not because you're good, but take an account of you because of a promise. So it's almost like an accounting word that's used, and it's like we find it in the Sidra Pekode. So also in the blessings that Jacob used, I'm just going to leave this out too. He used a lot of animals descriptive, and used 4 different terms for Gad, in the description. So it's a lot of interesting nuggets within there, which I haven't even begun to touch on in this particular sidra. And with Joseph, not only that, he's seen 3 generations of his kids. Seen his Ephraim's son, and he's seen Ephraim's grandson. So that's 4 generations. So the last thing I want to bring out is that when we talk about the part where Ephraim, that Abraham was told that your children will be in the captivity for 400 years, or 4 generations, and most people think America, and I think America, but it says, in that nation I will judge, not worldwide collection. So it ain't talking about worldwide collection. Most of us think, I had brothers, over this time, 1619, 2019, we should be leaving. Some people say 400 years, some others way. People always talking about whenever it's time to leave, it's time to leave. But when God said that He's gonna bring the people out, and He told Abraham in the covenant of the pieces, it was one nation that He talked about. And He said, I will judge that nation, and I will bring them out of that nation. Now when it comes to what we into now, what we're looking for now, through the north, the east, the south, and the west, to give up and bring my children from afar, that's a bunch of nations. That's not the one nation. So that and they talk about 4 generations, and that's why Reuben, Shimon, and Levi, you count the children that you talk about, that's 4 generations there. And the same thing with Joseph, you're talking 4 generations there. So, and that's what it's spoken on. So now when we count to 400, that's a whole nother story. But I just want to point those things out as we're going forward. And then when you finish the particular book, you say, Kazak when equals 8, be strong, and let us make one another strong. And usually those that follow tradition, when the Maftia get up and read to the end, and they say it with a tune, but when he reads out the Torah, then he just say it, without a tune. So, but those are some of the nuances that's there. There's a lot of stuff omitted in there, but one of the things to say, to consider how you become strong when a man dies in this particular situation. What will make you strong? Everybody leaving, checking out. So what will make you strong? So as we go into the book of Shemot, hope you got some of what I said. Any mistakes by my own, and you can leave the questions, and highlight some things. I know some things I might not make clear, in my dissertation, trying to conclude, so I don't have to go back in Genesis and move on to the next sidra. So with that, you have a good Shabbat and Shabbat Shalom. Any mistakes by my own.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. Thank you, the Most High God, for your life. Praying that the Most High God will continue to bless you. To all those listening on the actual stream, Shabbat Shalom to you all. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Costs you nothing to hit the like button and to share the actual the stream. So may the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, be with you all, continue to protect, keep, and guide you. And until the next time, Yah willing, we will see you on the stream. Shalom, shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from